All right, I am Pops, and yes, Penguin episode 1 is in the books, an hour-long premiere. Wow, Colin Farrell is killing it as the Penguin, and as you can see, we have a quick shot, silhouette shot here. We get sort of a montage of connections to the ending of the Batman with the Gotham City disaster. You have all of the news reports and news of Batman trying to save everyone, and it kind of cuts back and forth with Oswald looking on, and then you cut to him, and he's in like a purple Maserati. That's right, cruising around town, and then he's going to sort of the hideout, the lair of the Falcones, and he's looking for something. And what does he got? He's got like blackmail material. That's right, blackmail material on everyone before Alberto comes in at gunpoint, and then the whole first sequence of the film is them playing tit tat back and forth, sharing stories, who to trust. Can Alberto trust him or not? Can he trust Alberto? What's actually going to happen? Really pretty good tension. And again, this episode, and I think the whole show, is going to rest mostly on the shoulders of Colin Farrell. However, we're going to get to some other things I think that lend itself to being a very good start to a show. I don't want to get through too many of the spoilers here. What actually happens? He ends up in a situation where he comes face to face with these kids. They're trying to steal the rims right off his car, and he interacts with this kid. Now, what's cool about the kid is they don't do anything sort of like out of character. This feels very legitimate. And I kind of was reminded of a Batman story around, I think it's issue 410, where they took the Jason Todd storyline and they kind of redid it. So Batman taking on Jason Todd as Robin, oriented to Batman catching him stealing the tires off the Batmobile, or at least trying to. The Penguin taking him under his wing, basically becoming his little, kind of his first little toady slash chauffeur, was actually pretty good. And it's very believable in kind of how it's handled. There's a lot of like sort of like conversational things after this threat. So the threatening things start. He realizes he's kind of got him over a barrel. He thinks he's going to die. The sequence in this car where they're driving and you kind of just have this sort of back and forth, and you kind of have moments where he's looking at Victor and it's just facial expressions. It's still impossible to believe that this is Colin Farrell underneath all that. It's crazy how great this emotions and stuff comes through in this fat suit and in this makeup. So just incredible. They kind of go through what they've done here with Falcone, and then kind of what their plan's going to be, the back and forth, whether or not they should kill him or not. I'm going to work for you or not. And then he takes him and he goes with him, and he goes and he visits his mom. Now, I will admit, well, he goes home first. This is the first sequence we get. And the biggest thing that happens here is we get a shot of his foot. So we understand why he's limping the way he is before we get to alibis. And then he goes to see his mom. The sit down with the family comes to the tension that we saw in the trailer with the introduction of Sofia. Now, I was very critical from the promotional material. However, I can tell you what, she is killing it in this episode. It starts off with a lot of tension, allusions to things in the past. We are teased more than we get things spoon fed to us. This feels very much like a very strong HBO True Detective Sopranos type setup for a show. Now, I'm not saying it's going to deliver on that caliber, but I feel like that universe is being adapted for Batman. That's what they're going for. So, done very well. Was very impressed with this. A lot more than I thought I would be. Um, of course, she refers to Arkham and just there's again history, tension, chaos, and then of course the sequence with the mom. We saw some of this in the trailer, and a lot of this stuff is just sort of like soft pedaling you the backstory of why he is behaving the way he is. Why is Oz the way he is? And even though his name is Oswald Cobblepot, they call him Oz Cobb. I actually think they did a good job of kind of giving you all those details without spoon feeding you. Like, so his nickname on the street is Oz Cobb. His name is Oswald Cobblepot. This is not a big change like some of us feared that it was. And they're not going to go deeper than they need to in this episode. They're just going to kind of keep you on the hook, kind of baiting you for more. You get pieces of things that set up future stories, future arcs, and some things that need to kind of materialize. I will admit there's sort of like a father son mentor type thing that kind of plays out before we get this great sequence with the great Clancy Brown. Now, he plays Maroni, the other crime boss. He's actually behind the fence. I will say this is probably the weakest element because there's just nothing here yet. This is just literally an introduction to Maroni. Clancy Brown's character is not giving really anything to work with. There's a quick little tie to the earlier sequence that's important for you as an audience member, making you want more, seeing the game that Oswald is playing that manifests by the end of this episode. And if you don't want any spoilers or anything else, this is kind of where I'll get into something that's kind of a little bit deeper and edgier. So you kind of have some spoilers ahead. But I can just tell you, if you remotely have interest, I would say give it a shot. I think that the Penguin element is by far the biggest success story of the Batman. It's a great proto Penguin. This universe of this version of the Penguin fits, other than he feels very big. He feels like a large man compared to the Penguin in the comic books, who's obviously this little tiny man compared to most people. That's really the only major difference that I have. I don't want to say a problem with, but I can see a major difference from. But it still kind of really works in the universe. I don't feel like out of touch with this guy rising and becoming this crime mobster in the Batman lore. So it kind of fits. Maroni's character, it's just he's there. That's really all we're given at this point. We're not giving much else until the end of this episode. So as we move on, the last 15 minutes or so, 10-15 minutes is where it kind of turns into a spoiler, because obviously he knows the Falcones know. He knows that he's got to get out of town and move. Vic's not answering the phone. There's all this sequence where he gets abducted, and then they have this crazy sequence with Sofia, and he is literally in this crazy chair fat suit thing. It is nuts. They're torturing him, and they have it is, they pull back and you see the full body. It is so well done. I'm sorry. We can't get decent makeup, costume design, set design, editing, music, everything. I feel like everything pretty much hit the beats they needed to. Is this a little on the slow and tedious elements for a show like this? Yeah, but it's not meant to be something else. Like, this is clearly not going to be Peacemaker, right? It's clearly not going to be an action-packed crime adventure story, right? Penguin is a crime boss. This is a street crime boss. Like, when I compared it to things like Sopranos and True Detective, I think that is really a better way to capture the grit of what this show is going to go for. So it works out really well because Vic actually was working with him, and there was like this scheme all along with having the body show up at the last minute. It's missing the finger, which had the ring on it, which he gave to Maroni. And he kind of has this little laugh at the end because he realizes they're falling for his manipulation. He's really tweaked everything to create this sort of gang war situation. He knows that he on his own can't defeat Sofia, and he went to Maroni and kind of baited him in this situation, like, "Hey, I'll work with you." And everybody knows he can't be trusted. No, everyone's worked with him and knows he can't be trusted. So so what does he do? He pits them against one another. Perfectly done, well executed, and makes you want more. Exactly what you want to kick off a season in a show. I was so thrilled to see it, and I think it's great to have them time this right ahead of Batman Day so people can be talking about Batman stuff, Penguin stuff. It's fantastic timing. So hopefully you guys will check it out. You guys can tell me what you guys think. Thanks for watching. I am Pops.